Okay, guys, welcome to Jason Hebert Live. We should be live right now. Let's give just a minute for a couple people to get in the chat for those notifications to go out. By now, a few of you are familiar with how things work around here. You can pretty much say anything. Hey, Cold Country, how you doing, bud? You can pretty much say anything in the chat as long as you are respectful to the subjects and the cases being covered. You can say anything about me, about the channel, anything like that. That's fine. We're not boot happy here. We like everyone to have a good time and speak. But the main reason we do this is for the victims and the victims' families to get some answers, to get some closure, and to get their stories out there. So that's all we ask. Our one rule, be respectful in the chat. So in 1986, due to some friction and happenings with his family, 16-year-old Toby Anderson had been bouncing around and living with different relatives. When Toby went missing, the exact date couldn't be tracked, with even a 2-year gap between 1986 to 1988 seemingly being unable to be figured out initially. Denise and many other relatives had heard stories ranging from Toby had ran away to he died in a car accident. It wasn't until 2018 when Denise McGarity, Toby's cousin, tracked him to having lived with his uncle in 1986, where she discovered no signs of life could be found from after that. When pressed, Toby's uncle finally told the story of what had happened that night many years ago, claiming Toby had tried to rape one of his daughters, escaped to hide in a chicken coop, and then finally being driven away from the home by his uncle. But the story of where they went hasn't remained consistent, and Toby has never been seen or heard from since this supposed ride. Tonight, we have Denise McGarity, Toby's cousin, to tell Toby's story in the hopes that if you have any information at all on what may have happened to him that night, that you will come forward. Denise, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I just want to thank you for coming on today and sharing Toby's story. I hope we can get it out to as many people as possible, just to get it told and to even maybe get some answers.
Thank you for having me.
And do you want to start by I know there's quite a bit of backstory in regards to family and how this all kind of builds into what did happen that night. Do you want to kind of give us a little of the backstory and then go into what we do know happened?
Sure. Toby was having some trouble at home, which ended him up in juvenile hall where he was living for a few years due to some family issues with him and his mom and then him and his dad because they were divorced. And from 1983 to 85, Toby was living in juvenile halls. He went into probation from 1985 until 1986. From there, it looks like he had lived with one uncle on his mother's side and somehow ended up with an uncle on his dad's side in Oregon. From what I understand, it was to assist around the property and whatever they were doing. So around September, October, after I did the research, we thought he was missing around when he was 18. Come to find out, the September, October of 1986 was the last time he was seen. The night that he went missing was noted from a family member that something happened between Toby and a cousin, and there was an alleged or attempted rape, which I do not know it's true. Wasn't there. I can't prove it. I can't say it wasn't or nothing because we don't have Toby's side. The other cousin woke her parents up in this little small trailer and stated that Toby had run outside and hid in a chicken pen, and that's where they found him. The uncle then states that he put Toby into the vehicle, and after his family had left, he drove his Toby to the police department or juvenile hall and dropped him off. He claims that whoever the police came outside said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "He's your problem now." That was the last time Toby was ever seen.
Okay. And so in regards to, there are some suspicions you have in regards to his uncle. Do you want to go into what you found out there and kind of lead us through that?
Yes, we can. So the uncle has a history back at that time of drug-related issues. That he was selling, distributing marijuana at that time, and he has a history of questions with children, and that is currently why he is in prison in Arkansas. He also has a domestic background of domestic violence and some criminal background history that I have found too in regards to that time and in Arkansas. So the history of my uncle with children, he is currently serving a 20-some-odd-year prison sentence for rape and molestation of 3 minor children. He is supposed to be released next year, and I'm hoping to keep him in there. I'm hoping to get answers. He left shortly from Oregon after Toby went missing and moved to Arkansas. I did confirm with family members that the reason why they moved after Toby went missing, he stated to his family it was because my grandmother was sick and he needed to go take care of her, which is not true. She was never sick. She was fine, but they moved with her after that. He had told the story to Toby's father that Toby ran away. Years later, we found out from another uncle that Toby died in a car accident. There is nothing on that. In the state of California, where Toby was originally living, nor in the state of Oregon. I've searched Washington, Nevada, Arizona. I've searched all the way for any signs of Toby dying in a car accident. Ran his social, did a background, hired a private investigator. There is nothing on Toby. I've went as far as checking prisons, hospitals, mental health and mental hospitals, just giving him his flyer, saying if they knew him, will you please contact the police? So it wasn't even going through me. It was actually going through the police, where I had put the missing persons report with them, Josephine County in Oregon, and it has went to Oregon State Police now.
Okay. And there are things that the uncle has said and possibilities of things he's done on top of this that make you very concerned for him getting out, but also for what happened in the past. You want to kind of go into some things he said that kind of might make you suspicious of him?
Absolutely. Yes. I had written, once I found out that Toby went missing and that he was with the uncle, I decided to write my uncle in prison a letter. I did confirm it with the prison that I was able to do that, and there was able to be some communication between us. I've written about 6 letters, recently stopped because of the information that he gave me was very disturbing towards family and towards the situation. His letters went from, he has tried to help me in the past, which I don't know if he has me confused with somebody else or what, but that he's never had that communication with me, nor has he helped me. He has written me letters about money and how if I would just get that money, things would be better. He has written me letters about Toby, how he has went missing, which the only thing has stayed consistent is that he has dropped him off at this place and he just was in their care. Kind of puts the blame on the police department in Cave Junction and then puts the blame on Toby's father, stating that Toby's probably dead, and if he died with a backhoe to the back of the head, and he's buried on a property in California. That property is not under the people who was owning it at the time, nor they have stated that they would have allowed my uncle Billy, which he goes by Almer, or his name is Almer, but we call him Billy. They stated they would never have let him on the property because they did not want anything to do with him. They said he was definitely bad news, and things that he was involved in, things that he had done are always questionable. He has told me Toby died in a car accident. Toby's ran away. I've had letters from other family member involved with that same situation that told me that Toby didn't matter. Toby wasn't loved. And nobody cares for Toby, and to keep my nosy nose out of everything and to stop searching. All these letters have been sent to the Oregon State Police so they can read them and keep them as evidence, because each letter stated something different, something more horrific each time. And they're just questionable because he puts the blame that Toby is dead, but puts the blame on everybody else but himself. He was the last person to see Toby. Everything leads back to him, including all the evidence that I have obtained and handed over. Anytime I find anything, I hand it over to the police, which all leads is Toby has no signs of life, nothing, since 1986. I did do research on Toby at the beginning and found another Toby Eugene Anderson in the state of Indiana. Same date of birth. It was not our Toby. Do not look alike. I found out that this other Toby is who he is, who he's related to. He was born to this family. So I did determine this wasn't him. Private investigators always led back to that Toby because of the name and the date of birth. But it is not him. They look nothing alike. So I did push that out of the way a long time ago, a few years ago. Everything leads back to my uncle, including what he is incarcerated for at this time. Due to, unfortunately, it took me a long time to read why he was in prison. And when I read what he was in prison for, the DNA, and this was hard for me to read, but the DNA did confirm that he did what he did. So that doesn't lie. And he says he's a victim in that and that he's innocent. I did look into that to try to prove that if my uncle is innocent and he didn't do any of this, then I can help him, with his case currently. But DNA doesn't lie. So there's no helping him with that. So it kind of pulls everything back to Toby. What happened that night? Why was Toby hiding in a chicken pen? If he did what he did, what confuses me is why he didn't run. If you're accused of something that horrific, you would have ran, not hid. So I question that night who did what happened, and the situation. But of course, we can't seem to get a true story on the last day he's ever been seen, or the last day he was seen alive. So that's what I've been working on this whole time, talking to family, interviewing people. I literally make every 2 weeks about 100 phone calls to everybody, even probation officers that was with Toby, who's worked with them, who even stated how he was. He seemed to be a really a jokester, a very funny guy, liked to be around people. He wasn't one of these secluded people. He wanted to help everybody. He tried to make everybody laugh. Very kind, but loved the outdoors, seemed to love the military, outdoorsy type. He liked to wear military clothes. He liked to chop the wood and do whatever he could to help people. So he wasn't a bad kid. I think what he did to end up in juvenile hall, what we would consider nowadays as being kind of minor issues with family. Kids get in fights with family, but they don't get thrown in juvenile hall for those kind of fights.
Right.
He did steal his dad's brand new car, which broke his probation, which led him into 2 more years of juvenile hall living. And then when he was released, he was on probation, and they said basically he never I guess crossed that line with their probation to where he would go back to juvenile hall. So he was completely released after that.
Okay, and so we have a question in the chat about when he got dropped off, and I have a question to add to it. So you had just said that the uncle stated he dropped him off at the police station, but he has also said he brought him back to juvenile hall. Different stories, right? And Indy Pink asks if the uncle claims he
Correct.
dropped Toby off at some kind of care or shelter. Did the cop ask the people working there?
From what he stated, that he dropped him off either at the juvenile hall or the Cave Junction Police Department. First, he told me juvenile hall, and that they came outside, said, "Why are you dropping somebody off?" But then the second letter stated it was the Cave Junction Police Department. A police officer came out and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "He's your problem now," and just left. He stated Toby was whimpering and crying in the car the whole time. When I spoke to Cave Junction Police Department, they said if this would have happened, there would be a report, and they would have not let him just drop him off, and they would have contacted the parents to come get Toby. Neither parents were ever contacted. They had no idea where Toby was after that. They just thought he ran away. The story that my uncle told Toby's parents, which they're both deceased now, was that he just ran away that night. So it is very conflicting stories within the family. That's why he wasn't reported until 2 years ago that he was missing, because we did think he just ran away. There was a story of him joining the circus, which was not true. That was completely thrown out too, because I can't prove anything with that. I have searched the John Does, and there's no John Does within any system in the United States that would match Toby's description.
Okay. Now, on top of the stories not matching, he has also said something to someone else about putting them on the hill with Toby, correct? Can we go into detail as far as what he said regarding that?
Okay, yes. There was a family member who contacted me within my research when I started letting family know where I located the area Toby was. A few family members actually came forward to tell me that there was a story that the uncle had stated to them that if you ever cross him, you would be put on the hill as Toby was. So to me, that tells me Toby is no longer with us, and he was killed that night and buried somewhere on a hill.
And there are a lot of hills around that area you had sent me some pictures of, right?
Yes, there is a lot of hills, especially on the property that I sent you the picture of the trailer.
Yep.
There is a hill right behind it. What concerns me is that the family, if the uncle that night took Toby and left with him, why did he make his family leave to go to somebody else's house that night? There is a hill right behind that trailer. There is a lot of hills on that property. It is a 5-acre land going around that property. So there is quite a few hills on there that I feel Toby's buried on that property.
In the picture on screen, the trailer, it's likely he even could be in that hill we're looking at right now, right?
Exactly. And that's what I feel that he is at, is somewhere on that hill. I have asked for a search. The detective said he was going to get a hold of Josephine County, which would be doing the search on that property. There is people living on that property. We do not know their situation or if they even know that. I do not know if the property has been sold. It was rented at the time that they lived there.
Okay. And anytime somebody moves after a crime like this, it's of course always suspicious. When you say he moved to Arkansas shortly thereafter, how soon is shortly?
Less than a year. So
Okay.
it was less than a year from what I found. I would say less than 6 months. Toby did not go to he did attend a high school there, Central High School, or what they call it was Central High School from what I found out back then, but it is Illinois Valley High School in Oregon is where he attended school. They did submit the records. They would not give me all the records of the last date he was there, but they said Toby, the only thing I was able to obtain was Toby left and was told he moved back home to his family. So that is the story from the school, which doesn't make sense with the uncle's story if that is what happened. The school just said he went away. Toby never completed high school. So if he went away, why, there's no other records of him being in school in California, which would have been near Redding, Humboldt County, or Mendocino County. So I did contact every high school there to see if maybe he attended after that, and there has been nothing.
Okay. And to be clear about the story to everyone in the chat, so apparently Toby tries to rape, according to the story, the uncle's daughter, and he goes and takes Toby and brings him to wherever he brought him, but he makes the family leave before he does that. So I don't know if anyone has any ideas in chat, but if you're gonna go grab him and drive him off somewhere, are you going to make the family leave, or is it more likely that you're going to make the family leave because you have to do something you don't want them to see at the home? And that's what you're thinking is correct, Denise?
That's correct. Yes. My gut tells me that something else happened that night. And I have to believe one of the other cousins, she said something did happen. I have to believe them to a certain extent, but to me, if something of this nature happened, why wasn't the police called? Why did he have to drive Toby off? It doesn't make sense to me. And I've tried to piece together. I have determined that Toby only lived with them a very short time, which is less than 6 months. But he did attend high school there, so we were able to get that time frame in. But the story just doesn't make sense. And then every time my uncle writes me letters, it's a different story. He's still the victim in this too, stating Toby was not a good kid. So it's very puzzling. I try my best to put it together and do what I can. But it gets hard because there's a lot of people in the family that is no longer with us who knew a lot of information. So putting this together has been the most difficult thing for me, but to get Toby's name out there is the most important because he did matter. He was loved. And, for my cousin to say that he was not loved and nobody cared and nobody wanted him and he didn't matter and just to stay out of this tells me that there's more to their story than anything else. She claims he attempted to rape her, but then she's telling me to stay out of this and he didn't matter and he doesn't want to be found, to just drop the situation. So I keep thinking she knows more. The other cousins who are the sisters to this one really have supported me and gave me a lot of information that helped. And they want to know the truth. They have stated over and over, we just want to know the truth. The speculations are hard, but you have to speculate, to me, to find the answers. And that's what I've done. I had to speculate to get the pieces together. And as I find the evidence, I turn it over to the police. And the police have stated to me over and over, he keeps telling me, there's no signs of life. You realize that? Because I keep saying there's hope. There's hope. Maybe I can find him alive. If he didn't want to be found, I could just find him in maybe another country. Maybe he did something. Maybe he went into the mountain. Somebody knows where he's at. So I keep that hope that he is alive. But every time I get that hope and I do the research, there's nothing. And a 16-year-old boy in 1986, when you did not have internet access, and I'm 4 years younger than Toby, that identity is hard for a 16-year-old. You didn't hear of it back then, that people just, not children, just up and leave and change their identity and go with their own life. He was 16. You didn't have that access to change your life like that as good as you do now. Now people have that access and they do it. You hear that more often. But also the fact that shortly after Toby went missing, Toby's dad drove all the way to where I live in the St. Louis metro area. And I was 12 at that time. And I remember my uncle, before he got sick and died of cancer, he hugged us and he told my mom, life is really difficult. You could lose your child by going missing and you never know. And he wanted to just find Toby before he died. And he never got the opportunity. And even Toby's sister and brother hired a private investigator and there was nothing on him. Nobody could find him, and they've never had closure, and they deserve to know where their brother is. And we have talked about it, whether he's alive or dead. They deserve that. And Toby, if he's not here with us, our main thing is we'd like to bury him with his dad, so his dad would know that he was found. So that's why I do my best to research for them, is hopefully to give them that gift of peace, that he's home with his dad. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, if you need it any time off camera, that's fine. It
gets emotional because you just want him to go home. Mm-hmm. You know, if he's hiding, he was loved and he was cared about and he was wanted. His brother and sister are a lot younger than him, so they didn't have the access to search for him. And then the private investigators just give him the information and that's it. There's no Toby. So it's hard for his sister and brother, and they mean a lot to me. My family means a lot to me. And they deserve to know, and Toby deserves to know that we do love him. And we do want him. We want to know what happened.
Absolutely. And so there is something that has since developed since then, on top of Toby, right? Somebody else that you think may have been harmed by this uncle.
That's correct. Per a couple of family members that came forward with my uncle, there is also a suspicion that he is involved with a disappearance in Arkansas, due to person of interest in that case. My uncle's description at that time, which he doesn't look anything like he did in 1995. His description, the vehicle he owned at that time, and the history of the child rapes and molestations, come to find, it all leads back to that. There are also family members that came forward and stated that they've always had that strong feeling that they actually have turned this in the past for him to be looked at. Now, in that time frame, I cannot state that the police looked into my uncle in that case. But within my research and what I have found in that case is there is a very strong possibility, and we have turned that over to the police department in Arkansas. And I've pretty much begged this officer to do a lie detector to look into my uncle. The last phone call 2 weeks ago, that officer stated he would do that.
Did you want to go into the case you're referring to, the name?
It is the Morgan Nick case. And there's more than just two family members. Some of them have been deceased, but at that time, they even suspected that my uncle. But there is quite a few family members that have stated they always thought he was the person of interest. He matched the description, the composite drawing. If you put them side by side and you take the glasses off my uncle, because he wore glasses in pictures, but there was a lot of times my uncle had contacts in. He did not wear glasses. But a lot of times in pictures, my uncle would put on glasses. I did confirm this with a personal family member of my uncle about the contact lenses. And that person had stated Yes, he wore contact lenses at times. So the picture, the composite drawing, the vehicle he drove was a truck. The camper shell on the back of it was shorter, so it did not fit perfectly on the truck. He did have a car accident in the city that he lived in where somebody backed into the passenger side. Now, we're not sure because I've asked if the police will pull up that vehicle accident report because there should be one, and that would give them the exact location. But I do recall it was on the back bed of the truck where somebody backed into him. But I can't remember if it was at the front of the back of the truck bed or if it was at the back. And there's been quite a few family that said, yes, he did have an accident. Somebody backed into him. The truck bed was dented. The curtains inside, I confirmed it with several family members. They were not curtains inside of that truck in the windows. This was fabric that was glued into it. And if you see one side of it to the other side of that camper shell, those colors wouldn't have matched. I've never heard that in the description on that, but I did turn that into the police that the fabric was not curtains. It was fabric that was glued. Why he glued it, I don't know, but he did glue it. I also checked into the night that this child went missing and could not confirm that he was working as he stated. I was also told he knows nothing about that. Don't blame him. He's a victim in this too, of being accused. So
By the daughters?
I'm not sure if it was the daughters, but somebody in the past has turned him in for this and has suggested he was involved. Now, this was brought to my attention, her name. I honestly thought it was a boy, not a girl. So when I looked into it, I did not realize it was a girl until I started doing the research. Somebody sent me a link to a podcast for her case. And in that podcast, I got emotional when I heard the description. It was not even 10 minutes into this, and I heard the description of how they described this man at the time in 1995, where his hair was slicked back and it's salt and pepper. My uncle always slicked his hair back and had salt and pepper right here. Even as a young man, he was in his 30s at that time. He did not look his age. At least I don't think he looked his age. So I can see the description. I can see the description of the clothes because I actually have pictures of him, which I sent to the police, of him in clothes that match the description of the person of interest in her case. So that's why I get so defensive with that police officer and ask him, please, you know the history of my uncle. You see what he's convicted of. You see that DNA put him in prison. He needs to look at her case really strong. As I feel bad because that little girl needs to go home to her mom. And I've wanted to reach out to her mom and just tell her I'm sorry. And I strongly believe my uncle's the reason. I don't know why. It is a gut feeling. And I think Linda Richardson sent podcast information and we all listened to it. And
She said, stay strong.
Yeah.
She's supporting you right now in the chat.
She does. She really supports me a lot in this. And she knows how I feel with this little girl and how she needs to just be with her family and not where she's at. And I don't know where she's at, and he won't talk about it. But I just wish he would come forward and say, so they could have closure. I even offered to him if he would just give her up, that I would know about Toby. You know, don't have to give me him up, but at least give that little girl back to her family. And that's all that matters to us. Not if he won't tell us about Toby, then at least that little girl, let her go home. But he is, I mean, everything with his case just points to him. I mean, every bit of evidence. The only thing the officer has asked me is to get a VIN number off that vehicle. I have contacted the Department of Transportation in Arkansas. I've done background searches on him. I cannot get that VIN number to give that to the police officer because he said that is what he needs to go to them to question my uncle. He said that's the evidence he needs. I don't know how to obtain that. I contacted the Governor Hutchinson of the state of Arkansas and begged them on the phone to please help me get that VIN number or just what the truck description. If they won't give it to me, give it to that police officer. But give that to me so they can determine if my uncle is the reason or if he's not. If he's not, that's okay. You know, I will personally apologize to my uncle, but I can't get that information to prove it to this officer that I'm not giving him a line of crap. I did get direct with him on the phone the last time and told him that I'm not, excuse my language, bullshitting him, that this is not just a crazy call. This is what I have found. And even before that last one, before the first podcast I heard, did not give the description of the dent in the truck, and I emailed that to him. And then the second podcast that Linda sent me actually stated that there was a dent in the back of the truck. Even other cousins in the family who has heard this said they're sick to their stomach. One of them actually mailed me some things, and she said she wants just nothing to do with him because of this. She said the whole situation makes him sick. So I don't know if his daughters, there is two of them that have come forward, and one of them has stated that she believes what happened. And she just told me, find the facts and prove the truth. One of the daughters backs her dad up and says he's a victim and everybody lies about him and everybody goes against him. You're not a victim if DNA proves that you're a child rapist and molester. So.
Absolutely. Now you had sent me, I didn't have a chance to talk with you too much about this when we did our test run earlier. These pictures of where the trailer used to be. Do you want to go into a little detail on these?
Yeah, if you go back to the first one that you did, that one, that is the side of the property. There's 5 acres going around that. And then the next one, I believe, is currently, and this is currently what that property looks like. That is the entrance. I did call that number on there and asked that family to talk to me so I could try. I was willing to fly out to search myself on that property. The detective did tell me not to because he wants the police involved. So
'Cause
that
if we
is
can get that, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, that is the entrance to that property. The family has never returned that call off that number. And then the next picture is that is the street, and it goes around the corner. You can see the entrance right over there. So that's the beginning, and that's the beginning of the street where he was at and where he lived. It's very overgrown with trees and bushes. The back part of the property, I believe, is the next one. That part there, they are logging on that part of the property. When that was reported, and this is just a few weeks ago, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago that this has started, I called the detective and told him, and he was contacting the loggers, the company who was doing this, to speak to them in regards to the case. I don't know if it's been stopped. I don't know what's happened with that. We did have people reach out to us to put flyers out for that property in Oregon, and that's Selma, Oregon.
Right.
And the trailer is how small that trailer is. That's another thing that I have questioned. I actually went inside of a trailer that was similar to that trailer and kind of seen, because it's a 2-bedroom trailer and you see it's very, very tiny. This style of trailer, the kitchen is in the front. And then there's a living room. The bedrooms are in the back of the area. I went into the front room and just made a small sound, and you could hear it in the back of that trailer. So I was trying to determine if this alleged attempted rape happened, why didn't she scream? Why didn't her parents get up? Why did she have to run into the other room to wake her mom up and dad? It doesn't make a bit of sense. Being that close of area, you almost can hear from one room to the next.
Right. Okay. Now it sounds like, going back to what you said earlier, if we could get that VIN number, and of course, if we could find Toby, that would be the main way. But if we can't, getting the VIN number might go far towards keeping him inside there, right? Which is what you want.
Right. I have
Anybody knows.
Yeah, I've requested. I don't know where else to go. I've called so many places in Arkansas to get that VIN number in from 1995. Like I said, I've called the governor because they said the governor would have to approve that, which even if they don't give it to me, give it to that detective who's on that case to either clear him or speak to him in regards to this. As far as Toby's case, the detective is pretty certain he is not alive. Or he even stated, as far as if Toby was accused of what he was, people like that do not just stop. There's no stopping that behavior. It would cause another crime to happen. And he even said with the juvenile record with in regards to him pulling out a kitchen knife and threatening mom and then stealing his dad's brand new car, because that is on record. I mean, we have to face that is on record. But he stated if Toby had a troubled background, he would have continued in that process, and there would be some sort of arrest record, prison, something. And there's nothing. I mean, even homeless. I've checked with homeless shelters. At one time in Toby's life, since the 33 years he would have been missing, there would have been some notation in some kind of homeless shelter. They take their names over the years, but there is nothing. So unless he gave a false name, but there's nothing, even military. I've checked military, thinking because he liked the outdoors, is the military. I have contacted people in regards to thinking maybe he went back to Redding, Humboldt, Mendocino County area, and nobody has heard from him. I did talk to detectives regarding 2 years ago regarding the what they consider Murder Mountain in Humboldt County.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe did he get involved in that? And they said he would have been arrested. There would be some sort of arrest paperwork. 2 weeks ago, I did get kind of direct with the Humboldt County, and I told them that they refused to do missing persons report in Mendocino County and Humboldt County because the last known area we have on record was Selma, Oregon. But I told them that if Toby went missing and he was under probation, I questioned their intentions. Did you follow up on probation if he went missing? Why wasn't that looked into? And when I talked to the state's attorney 2 weeks ago and really threw a fit about that and said, you need to give me information. If you're not going to give it to me, you need to give it to Detective Wilson in Oregon. And I said, but you not following up on this and not giving me that information regarding his probation of when he was released. And from what I understand, per their court records and their laws, it is 6 months after to a year after probation that he has to follow up on. If that's the case, then Toby's probation was never ended because Toby went to Oregon less than 6 months after he got out of juvenile hall. And he lived in Oregon for 6 months.
Okay.
So that it doesn't make sense in their process either. So that's why I threw a fit with them, talked to the state's attorney and told them they need to look into this. And then they told me they would be filing also a missing person and doing documentation of this. So I emailed them everything and demanded answers with that.
Okay. And so, yeah, we have those things going. If anybody knows how to find VINs, by all means, you could contact me, jasonebert100@gmail.com. Denise, if she decides to at the end, she can give her any kind of contact information she wants public. Mm-hmm. That's her decision, of course. And Linda Richardson can be found on Facebook. I'm sure she's willing to help. Denise and Linda are good friends. Mm-hmm. Denise, if Toby's listening to this, what do you want to tell him directly?
That he was loved. And he's been missed all these years. And we want to know where he is and how he is. And to just contact us. You know, his sister and brother really, really want to know what happened. They need that closure. And we have spent many years, even his sister hired a private investigator. Just contact us and let us know where he's at and if he's alive. And just give us some kind of closure. Even if he doesn't want to contact, keep the family contact, that's fine. But at least let us know if he's alive.
Okay. And since there are a lot of family ties involved in this, is
Mhm.
there anything you haven't said? Any pleas to anyone? Not no E at the end. Please, like you want to plead to them.
Mhm.
Anything you would like them to do, not like them to do, to not say, anything
Yeah.
like that?
There are cousins that they're hurting because of the past. A lot of them don't want to remember what has happened, but if they would just come forward, I even offered to pay for the hypnosis, but the truth needs to come out, bad or good. We've accepted it. We have to know what happened. And if it was an accident, that can be dealt with. But we need those answers in order to move on. But holding that in for 33 years, that builds up and it causes problems later on. And they are absolutely phenomenal young ladies. And I love them with all my heart. I do protect them. I protect them because I don't want people saying harmful things about their dad because I don't want them hearing it. It's not that I don't want my uncle held accountable, but I don't want those girls hurt because there's been enough hurt in our family over the years. And we've all actually turned out really damn good. We really
Yes,
have.
you have.
That cycle has stopped. And I'm so proud of each one of those girls for what they went through. But if they would come forward together and let us know exactly what happened and confirm the story, then we could find closure. Marcy could have closure. The family can have closure because everybody wants to know what happened. Even other uncles have stated, we just want to know what happened to him. You know, if he ran away, he ran away. But everybody in the family has stated they believe he's gone. And I have to keep that hope up for Marcy and Randy that he might be out there. Even his nephews and nieces, they want to know. They want to know what happened to their uncle. They want closure too. Each one of those kids, I mean, it's really that cycle stopped with us, with all those bad things happened. And each one of us turned out okay. And then we all have kids. And we're all starting to get grandkids. And you're starting to see that progression in our family where that dark cloud is going away. And it's about time because that dark cloud was over our family for a very long time. So this would give us closure, fully closure, to find Toby and to find the answers.
Absolutely. Is there any information that you would like to leave? Excuse me. If someone has a tip, someone knows something, how could they contact you if they needed to?
You have my email address. They can email me. You can even give out my phone number if somebody wants to contact me. They can give the information to Linda Richardson.
Do you want to say it publicly, like for the people driving, listening and stuff? Do you want to say it on the video here, your email and whatever you want?
Yeah, my email is DEE Cuppett, CUPPETT @gmail.com.
Okay.
They can reach me at my phone number, which is 618-801-9753. They can also go on Bringing Toby Home on Facebook and private message me or Linda Richardson or Marcy Tanner in regards to Toby's case. We have started a organization where become an advocate with Linda Richardson and for the United Missing and the Toby Anderson Foundation, where now I'm assisting Linda in helping finding the missing persons. And we work on cases, but we have Toby Anderson Foundation. We have a Facebook page. They can also contact us on that Facebook page of the Toby Anderson Foundation.
Awesome. Cold Country Podcast, who is, if you watch the other interview I did, that's Grotto. That's my buddy, my co-host, asked if he could make a video about the story on his channel.
Absolutely. The more we can get Toby's story out, yeah. I mean, he needs, he needs to be found. And unfortunately, I know that other officer doesn't feel as strongly, or he wants more evidence before I can point my uncle at the Morganic. But I could, I'm happy to send you, and Linda can send you the information that I sent her that strongly shows the evidence is leaning towards him, even as far as the day he states he was working, and confirmation shows he was camping that weekend. We don't know where. The area that little girl went missing is 2 hours and 46 minutes from his home. And if he got off of work at 5, or before, I can't get that exact time of when he was off work that day. But if he went missing, 2 hours and 46 minutes isn't very long to go camping. And she went missing at night. So it really did. The evidence does lean towards him. And if it doesn't, somebody else look into this and they don't see it, I would love to know. But everything I have, and Linda's researched, I've had several other people research, and they all say the same thing is, yeah, the evidence shows that he was involved.
I mean, I of course haven't been able to give it much research yet because we just met, but from what you've told me, I would have to agree.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm happy to send you what we have obtained. My biggest thing is if I can get that VIN number, or somebody know how I can get that VIN number, police will not give it to me. I could give that to that police officer and pretty much just tell him, here, I mean, he promised me he would look into my uncle. He promised. We gave him a couple weeks to do this. So I'm hoping he comes through and he doesn't ignore me, because 8 months ago, I gave him the other information on how he could be tied to this, and nothing was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to specify something too. We might have said this earlier, but just repeat it if we have. That this missing poster lists that he was last seen on August 22nd of 1988. But as far as you've been able to find out, there's been no contact since 1986. That was kind of a mistake, right? Can you clarify that real quick, just for people who are following the details and looking into things?
The question in that, yes. So we determined per the last picture that Toby had taken that was sent to his mother. We kind of got that as, we always thought he was around 18. So when I first reported him missing, I told them he could be between the ages of 16 and 18, but I didn't know the exact time he went missing. So when we first reported him missing and we entered that in NamUs and everything, we went by that date because that was the only information that I had as close to that time frame. The fall with the picture and that. Within that research and talking to other family, like I talked to my sister. I was very young when Toby went missing, and my sister and Toby are the same age. And we found pictures of Toby's dad when he came to visit, the time frame. So we knew Toby went missing prior to that date. So then on that research, I got him within the last, I think it was about 8 months, more determined within less than 3 months from that picture of when he was last seen. So that's something the officer does not want to change, that date, because we already have all this in NamUs, the Charlie Project, and it's attached to our DNA. We didn't want to change it and mess anything up in case we did find him. So I was fine with those dates staying the same, but even the detective said he was 16.
Okay. And just to be clear, when you say his last picture, that is this one right on the right?
That is that one on the right, correct. And then we have recently did an age progression picture of Toby of what he might look like now. The other one, he was 13. The picture with him in the longer hair, he is 16 years old. They went off of the family pictures and the pictures of when he was a baby that I sent you along. It had the teddy bear with it. But they did the age progression from all the family pictures, the brother and sister of what they look like now. And just what he would, everything of what he would look like is how they did it. I think I sent you where it looks like he's older.
Yeah, I sent a bunch of them into the file here, and I just realized when you said that a few of them didn't get there. The age progression one, can I find that just so I can show it to people? While you talk, I can email it to myself.
Yeah, I can email that to you while we're on the phone.
That'd be something that'd be good to put on screen just so people can see.
Yes.
I don't know why that didn't go. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Oh, yep. I have them.
You have it? Okay.
Yeah. Downloads. Give me 1 second, guys. Anything that you wanna, any extra details you wanna fill them in on while I'm doing this, by all means.
Another thing it would give Marcy some closure a little bit is if anybody knew him when he was in high school or even at the probation hall, the juvenile hall that he was at, if anybody knew him, would reach out to the family and kind of tell us a little bit more. Did he talk about them? Because they are a lot younger than Toby is. There is a distance. There's 4 years with me, and Marcy's several years younger than me, and so is Randy. So maybe they would know because they don't remember a whole lot about his personality and how he was, and maybe give that to him. I've talked to a few people and they just stated he was very funny and outgoing, and he seemed to like to be around everybody. He's like the rest of the family. We're not loners. We like to be social butterflies, as per se, but and that seemed to be Toby's demeanor too. But yeah, we look at that picture and we see they did a really good job because he looks a lot like his brother and his sister. And he's going to be going on 51 this year in December. So he's going on 34 years missing.
Wow. I'm so sorry, Denise.
It's just too long. It's too long for his brother and sister. Marcy keeps me very, very grounded in the research. And we actually have not even met. And I know that sounds crazy. The family has not met. But Marcy and I talk on the phone, and there is such a strong connection when we finally found each other. we just bonded. And I keep telling her, I'm going to find him. I'm going to find him. And when I do, I'm going to fly out to see her. And I just want to give her the biggest hug and just give her her brother. That's what I want to do. So if it comes to the point, I've even told the detective, if you go and search that property, I'm going. And I want to be there. I want to be involved, and I want to be there because I strongly believe he's on that property or near it, within that 5-mile range.
Absolutely. And we're going to go ahead and pump this out everywhere we can, and hopefully something good will come of this, some more information, and keep me updated and the fans of the channel as far as what happens with the search and the dig, that'd be great. And I'm sure anybody that's listening, if they do know how to get a VIN number, she said all of her information earlier, by all means, send it over to her, because that could be huge.
Yes. If I can keep him in prison and not hurt anybody else, I know he's not supposed to be around kids once he gets out, but I am on a very short time frame. He is going to be released from prison this next year in September of 2021. Unless I can stop him from getting released, because I'm so afraid he goes around any child. Or I don't want him hurting his children or his grandchildren, because I would feel guilty by not fighting to keep him in prison if somebody else got hurt.
Right. Absolutely. We'll do everything we can to keep him in there. It looks like it's where he belongs.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for coming on. And everybody that joined in, please do everything you can to help Denise, and of course to help Toby. And let us know if there's any information, not only just information and tips, but just maybe you come up with an idea that me and Denise couldn't, or Linda, or whoever. You never know. The more eyes on something, the more brains working at it, the better chance you have to solve it. So Let's get Toby. Let's either bring him home or get him some justice, or whatever we got to do. But let's end this nightmare for poor Denise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night, guys. Denise, thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you shortly.
All right. Thank you.